I just have this like mirror headpiece on. Hey everybody, welcome back to Amie Liane. This is actually my first video of the year because I've been so terribly unprepared, but I'm getting back on track. And today I wanted to talk about reading because I have been so obsessed with reading this month. Literally, I'm a bookworm, but last year I was in the worst reading slump I have ever experienced. I literally only read 2 books in the entire year. I'm very ashamed of this. However, this year my passion, obsession, love of reading has returned in full force, and so I wanted to do a video of everything that I've read in January, and that's been 9 books. Seeing as we have so many books to get through today, I think we should just dive into the video, and if you do like this, then please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. The first book I read was on my Kindle and it was called Trust Again by Mona Kasten, and this is the second book that I've read by Mona Kasten. They are originally in German, so after I finished the first book, which was called Begin Again, I have been like obsessively, impatiently, desperately waiting for the next book to be translated, and finally it was. Words don't even work for this. I finished this in 2 days. I loved it. I get so invested in the characters. The way Mona Kasten writes is amazing. You really do feel like you're like, you know the characters. It's so, I don't know. You know, I don't know. You know, I don't know. I don't know. I get so blah when I'm talking about books, but seriously, I loved this. The other thing that I do absolutely love about Mona Kasten, and I've only come across this in one other author, she makes playlists at the beginning of the book. So what I do is I make the playlist on Napster or Spotify, whatever you want to use, and then I listen to that whilst reading the books. So I discover new music and songs that remind me of the book, and it really adds to the atmosphere of it. Begin Again followed the story of Ali and Caden, and then there was a subplot of their friends Spencer and Dawn. So Trust Again, this book, follows Spencer and Dawn. They have subplots of other characters who will then go on to get their own books, which have actually been written, and they are in German, but I was so obsessed with this book that I was like, as soon as I finished it, I was tweeting the publishers like, when is the translated version of the rest coming out? Like, I need them, it's essential for my life. And they tweeted back to me saying that they're not gonna translate the rest of the series. So that's my heart shattered. I did tweet back to them telling them that I felt like my heart had been ripped out and stamped on. I'm just so obsessed with it. So I would give that book, Trust Again by Mona Kasten, 10 out of 10. If we're doing it out of 10s on Goodreads, I did give it 5 stars. If you want to follow me on Goodreads, you can find that down in the description as well. I leave some enthusiastic reviews on Goodreads as well, like this. It's what I do. So on to the next book, and that was American Royals by Catherine McGee. And basically the concept of this is that George Washington was asked way back in the day if he wanted to become King of America when the whole revolution stuff was happening. I don't pretend to be an expert on that. I'm English, I don't really care that much. Basically, this book is generations later, assuming that George Washington had become the king rather than the President of the United States. And it's then following his descendants. But by the end of this book, I was very invested in all of the characters. There were tears at the end. I think I sat in the living room and just cried for a bit because cliffhanger and emotional ending. But the next book in the series, I don't think it has a title yet, but it's theoretically coming out in fall 2020, so we have like 6 months to wait. It's a good compromise between like YA and dystopian, but it's not dystopian because it's not apocalyptic, but it's not YA because it's not like real, and it's not fantasy, so it's like this strange little mix, but it's great. 5 stars, read it. So the next book that I read this month was Let Me List the Ways by Sarah White, and it was just one that I stumbled across on Goodreads, decided to add it to my list, so I read it. It was quite average, to be honest with you. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but that's probably a little bit too generous when I'm looking back at it. It was very, very predictable. I'm not gonna lie, it was first chapter, you could predict the entire thing. The next book I read was Peter Pan, and I have been meaning to read this for years. I got it, I think, 2 Christmases ago because I love the film and I wanted to read the book. I knew it was going to be kind of weird. I knew it wasn't going to be like Disney, and it was going to be a bit, I don't know, like I feel like anything people study in English literature has question marks over it, like it's a bit weird. But I didn't really expect that the first thing I will be doing after reading this book is Googling, did J.M. Barrie hate children? Because that is literally what I did. As soon as I finished it, I have my internet history to prove it. And then I was sat for like a full afternoon reading psychological profiles on him and whether like he had issues, because this book was really strange. I mean, I don't know whether it's actually that strange, whether we as a society are reading too much into it, or if it's just like a plain fantasy book. But okay, was Neverland like a metaphor for hell? Was it a metaphor for heaven? Was Peter Pan death? Was everybody dead? Was like, what was that? Was it words, they don't sum up what I'm feeling. I'm very, very confused about Peter Pan. It was just a weird experience. The next book that I read was Signs Point to Yes by Sandy Hall, and I've read another book by Sandy Hall called A Little Something Different, which was really cool. It was such a strange kind of concept. It was really quirky. It was a love story told by like, I think it was 22 perspectives of just like, even like there was a chapter written by a squirrel, and I say that and it sounds weird, but it did work, and it was, yeah, it was a quirky, cool book. This was a lot more mundane. You could guess the outcome. Actually no, there were a couple of things you couldn't guess, but you could pretty much guess how it was gonna end, and it was very predictable. Average 3.5 stars. Okay, so the next 3 books that I read was the Truly Devious trilogy by Maureen Johnson, and oh my god, full on Janice, like, oh my god, these books were insane. I read the entire like 1,000+ page trilogy in I think 5 days. Oh my god, I literally can't even. How would I describe it? It's about a crime that took place in 1936. There were some murders and some disappearances. And then fast forward to present day, or I think 2017 it was based in. There is a girl, comes to the school where all the murders took place, and she wants to find out what happened. And then other people get killed and other people get killed, and it's great, and there's so much mystery, so many twists and turns, and oh my gosh, it was just, I don't have words to describe how obsessed I became with these books. I have notes in my phone of all the theories that I came up with when I was reading them. I read Truly Devious in 2 days. I then read The Vanishing Stare in 2 days, and I was so lucky because the 3rd book in the trilogy, The Hand on the Wall, got the title then, The Hand on the Wall, came out the day after I finished The Vanishing Stare. So I cannot imagine having read the first 2 and then having to wait a year for the last one, because I would have gone crazy, full on, out of my mind, losing it, just needing answers, coming up with theories. I would probably have made a murder board, but okay, I was very lucky. It was very fortuitous was the word I decided to use. I'm really kind of miffed that they're over. But then I'm really happy because they had such a good ending. But then, to be honest, I would just read like a really long series about the day-to-day life of students at the Ellingham Academy. Those books are a solid 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, whatever you want to call it. And finally, we come on to the last book that I've read in January, which is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, which is kind of cool because it's actually based in a town which my friend lives-ish in. I'm actually only on page 349 of this, very nearly finished. This is not a patch on Truly Devious, I have to say, as far as the murder mysteries that I've read go. It's still good. I have no idea who has done the murder, if that's who murdered the people, done the murder, is that a phrase? That's not a phrase. So it's good in the sense that I cannot predict what's going to happen at the end, and I'm very nearly at the end. Those are the books. Wow, that was a really Phoebe Buffet thing, just like those are the books that I have read in January 2020, and hopefully I can manage to read the same amount in February. Fingers crossed. I have a really long to read list. I think I actually have about 71 things on my list on Goodreads, which is crazy and overwhelming, but I will get there. I've done a blog post on this which has more of a factual, understandable aspect to it rather than just being me like, I love this book. So if you would like to read that, then head over to my blog, which is linked down in the description. It's called Hello Amie Liane, and if you've enjoyed this, then just subscribe and give it a thumbs up. I would love to know what you've read in January, so tell me that down in the comments as well, and I will see you again soon. Bye!